Close your eyes and try to remember the sound of your grandmother's bedroom at night. There was a specific rhythm to it. It wasn't the sound of scrolling through a phone or the hum of a charger. It was the rhythmic scritch-scratch of a natural bristle brush against hair, the heavy clink of a glass jar lid hitting a marble top, and that unmistakable powdery scent of Chanel No. 5 mixed with something medicinal. We often think of beauty as an evolution, that we're getting better, faster, and safer. But if you were to step back just 80 years, the rituals of the morning and night were almost unrecognizable. In fact, many of the tools our ancestors used were so dangerous that they were essentially playing a daily game of Russian roulette with their health. But the most dangerous ritual of all wasn't something they applied to their skin. It was something they inhaled every single day. And the reason it was finally banned is more terrifying than the product itself. Long before the era of clean beauty, there was a trend that prioritized a specific ghostly pallor. In the late 19th century, a woman's social standing was written on her face. The paler you were, the less time you spent laboring in the sun. But achieving that translucent look required a specific ingredient found in the back of the apothecary. They were called Dr. Campbell's Safe Arsenic Complexion Wafers. They promised to remove freckles, pimples, and roughness. And they worked. Arsenic kills off red blood cells, which literally thins the blood and creates that sought-after deathly white glow. Think about the sensation of those wafers. They were chalky, tasteless, and sold as a health tonic. Women would tuck them into their vanity drawers next to their lace handkerchiefs. You can almost smell the faint scent of lavender sachets and old paper as they reach for their medicine. It was a quiet, private ritual, but the glow was actually the first sign of chronic poisoning, leading to kidney failure and skin lesions. But while arsenic was poisoning the body from the inside, something even more visible was happening to the hair. A nightly labor that has completely vanished from the modern home. 1, 2, 3. Every girl was taught the magic number, 100. Before the invention of silicone-heavy conditioners and Moroccan oils, the only way to keep hair healthy was manual labor. You might remember watching a mother or grandmother do this, but there was a secret reason for the count. It wasn't just about tangles, it was about the natural oils. But if you did it wrong or used the wrong type of brush, you could actually trigger a condition that caused hair to fall out in clumps by the age of 30. The brushes were often heavy, made of sterling silver or tortoiseshell with boar bristles. They felt cold to the touch in the winter. The sound was meditative, a way to decompress before bed in a world without electricity. It was the sound of a day ending. The 100-stroke rule eventually died out, as shampoos became more efficient at stripping and re-moisturizing, rendering the nightly chore unnecessary. However, that exhaustion was nothing compared to the literal physical pain women endured for the perfect gaze. A ritual involving a plant so toxic, its name literally means beautiful lady. In the Victorian and Edwardian eras, shining eyes were the height of beauty. To achieve this, women would use a small glass dropper to place a single bead of liquid into each eye. The tension point. The liquid was belladonna, or deadly nightshade. It dilated the pupils, making the woman look permanently aroused or interested. But there was a side effect that no one talked about until it was too late. A fog that would settle over the vision, starting as a blur and ending in total darkness. Imagine the stinging sensation, the watery eyes, and then the world slowly losing its sharp edges. The room would become a soft-focused dream. It was considered romantic. The vanity table would hold these tiny, unmarked vials, looking like harmless perfume but containing a potent neurotoxin. Belladonna dropped out of fashion as the medical community finally linked the shining gaze to permanent blindness. But as women stopped poisoning their eyes, they began applying something even heavier to their skin. A thick white mask that stayed on for days and had a weight you wouldn't believe. For centuries, ceruse was the gold standard of makeup. It was a mixture of white lead and vinegar. Unlike modern foundation, which we wash off every night, ceruse was often left on for days, patched up when it cracked. But the lead didn't just sit on the skin, it seeped into the pores. It created a specific metallic smell that permeated the bedrooms of the elite. A scent that signaled status, but also signaled the approaching lead palsy. The texture was heavy and stiff. If you smiled too hard, your face would literally crack. Women would move with a stiff, regal grace, not because they were posh, but because their makeup was structural. Eventually, the lead rot became too obvious to ignore, leading to the rise of safer powders. But as we moved into the 20th century, the danger shifted from chemistry to physics, specifically a new type of light that promised to solve the problem of unwanted hair forever. In the 1920s, the tricot system was the height of luxury. You would sit at a beautiful mahogany desk, place your face or arms in front of a window, and feel nothing. No pain, no smell, no plucking. It was marketed as the miracle of the ray. But the ray was an X-ray, and because it was invisible, beauty operators didn't realize they were delivering doses of radiation hundreds of times higher than a modern chest X-ray. The results were perfect, at first. Imagine the sterile, quiet hum of the machine, the technician in a white coat, the sense of being a modern woman. No more painful waxing, just a cool breeze and the magic light. Within 10 years, the tricot girls began developing X-ray skin. Thick, leathery, cancerous growths that appeared exactly where the light had touched them. But while some were being burned by light, others were being vacuumed by a machine that looked like it belonged in a plumber's kit. If you walked into a high-end salon in the 1930s, you might see a woman wearing what looked like a gas mask with hoses. This was suction therapy. It promised to pull the impurities out of the skin and reset the muscles. But the pressure was often unregulated. There was a terrifying moment in these sessions where the suction would lock and the skin would begin to turn a deep, bruised purple. The sound was a rhythmic thump-pop, thump-pop. The smell was a mix of rubber and heavy ozone from the electric motors. It was the birth of mechanical beauty, where we started to treat the human face like a machine that just needed a bit of tuning. Most of these machines were tossed into scrap heaps during World War II, replaced by a much simpler, greasier ritual. A ritual involving a blue tin or a glass jar that every single household in America owned, and the smell of it can still trigger a vivid memory of a cold bedroom in 1955. Before the 10-step Korean skincare routine, there was only one step: cold cream. Why did every woman, from the richest socialite to the tiredest housewife, smear a thick white grease on her face before bed? It didn't soak in. It stayed on the surface, ruining pillowcases and creating a mask that stayed there all night. But there was a social rule about cold cream that has been completely forgotten. The smell is the key. It's floral, waxy, and clean in a very specific, old-fashioned way. The feeling of the cold, heavy cream hitting the skin after a long day was a signal that the public face was coming off. It was a cocoon of privacy. The rule was that a husband should never see the process. The unglamorous work of beauty was hidden away. But as the jars of cream were put away, a new danger emerged in the salon. A chemical smoke that would fill the air as women sat for hours under a terrifying metal crown. In the early days of the perm, the chemicals used were so volatile that the salon had to be incredibly well ventilated. The smell of ammonia was so strong it would make your eyes water, but it was often masked by the smell of burning hair. If the machine overheated, which happened often, the metal rollers would literally fuse to the hair. There are records of women losing entire sections of their scalp because they couldn't unhook from the machine fast enough. Imagine sitting perfectly still for 6 hours. You couldn't move your head. The weight of the metal was immense. You sat there, inhaling the sharp, stinging fumes, watching the steam rise from your own head. Cold perms eventually replaced these heat monsters, but not before they left a generation of women with a very specific fear of the salon chair. And yet, the most bizarre thing we've lost isn't a machine or a poison. It's a piece of furniture that defined the architecture of our homes. Before indoor plumbing was universal, the Vanity wasn't just a place for makeup, it was a survival station. We think of the washstand as a quaint decoration now, but it held a specific daily mystery. Every morning, you had to perform a full-body clean with only 2 liters of water. How you did this without soaking the floor or the wooden furniture was a lost art form, a choreography of the sponge that took years to master. The sound of water pouring from a heavy ceramic pitcher into a bowl, the clink of the basin, the specific texture of a line-dried towel felt like sandpaper against the skin. It was a slow, deliberate start to the day. When the bathroom became a separate room with running water, the washstand vanished, and with it, the intimate connection we had with the water we used. But while the washstand died out, one final glowing trend was just beginning, one that would literally make women light up the dark. In the 1920s, radium was seen as the breath of God. It was the ultimate energy ingredient. Thau Radia was a French beauty line that contained thorium chloride and radium bromide. It promised to stimulate the cellular vitality. People would apply glowing rouge and glowing lipstick. But the mystery wasn't in what it did to the skin, it was what it did to the jawbones of the women who used it. It felt high-tech, it felt like the future. Imagine putting on lipstick that actually shimmered in the dark of a jazz club. You were the center of attention. You were radiant in the most literal sense. The Radium Girls and the subsequent lawsuits finally revealed the horrific truth of internal radiation. And the glow was banned forever. It's a stark reminder that what we find beautiful is often just a reflection of what we find modern, no matter the cost. When we look back at these forgotten things, it's easy to feel superior. We know that lead is toxic, that arsenic kills, and that X-rays shouldn't be used for hair removal. But these rituals weren't just about vanity. They were about the human desire to transform, to take control of our physical selves in an uncertain world. The scritch-scratch of the brush, the smell of the cold cream, the weight of the silver mirror. These were the anchors of the day. They were moments of quiet reflection before the world rushed in. Today, our beauty routines are faster, safer, and more scientific, but we've lost the ceremony. We've lost the slow, tactile connection to the things on our vanity. What is one forgotten beauty item or routine you remember from your childhood? Was it the smell of your mother's hairspray, the specific sound of a powder compact snapping shut, or a strange blue bottle on the bathroom shelf? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear the sensory details you can still remember.